Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the review of Senran Kagura Estival Versus, marking the series' return to the Vita and the debut on home consoles with the PS4 version. The two versions are the same, with differences focused around technicalities, so most footage in this review will be from the PS4. If the Vita version is shown, there will be a logo on the upper right corner of the screen. This is because the PS4 has an edge in resolution, frame rate, polygonal count, number of enemies on screen, texture quality, effects, lighting, loading times and audio sampling. Ironically enough, the Vita version looks better in a few indoor stages, where the lighting in the PS4 version dims everything, resulting in dark and unappealing stages, whereas on the Vita, without any form of ambient lighting, are nicer to see. However, if you have the choice, go for the PS4 version. No matter the version, technically the game is a mix. Character models and animation look great. Stages are bland and uninspiring, with only a token number of shadows and only one environment light source. Certain stages are lifted wholesale from Shinobi Versus. The story is still brought forward by static images and the usual animated character portraits.
あたいの願いが聞き入れられたぞ。ありがとう、おっぱいの神様よ。
Enemies had their ranks bolstered by few new additions, but are otherwise the same from Shinobi Versus. The whole presentation is a far cry from Senran Kagura to Shinku on the 3DS, that at least tried to bring everything, from enemies and backgrounds to cutscenes and menus, in line with the care given to playable characters. As a result, Estival Versus feels old in its visual presentation, a simple update to Shinobi Versus with some new elements and nothing more. The game itself has not changed much, but just like stages and enemies, there are new features and some changes to the existing structure. You will still face hundreds of enemies in a fully three-dimensional environment, racking up impressive combos as the stage goes on, and facing one or more of the named characters at the end of it. Estival Versus still has yin and yang mechanics, where you can ditch your clothes to improve offense while sacrificing defense. The new combat features include a wall jump, bombs that can be thrown around, multiple wake-up types after being knocked down, double attacks, and even a parry. These might sound great, but none of these new additions really fit into the fast-paced nature of the game. Bombs must be thrown when stationary, and are thrown in front of your character, rather than aiming for the locked-on target like every other action in the game. The various wake-ups are linked to different buttons, but they could have been linked to a single button plus a directional input. Only few missions include a partner, and a double attack isn't as effective as a well-timed special attack. The parry, I don't really know why it's there. To perform it you have to block when an enemy attacks, and tracking all possible attack sources when you're swarmed by hundreds of enemies at once is pointless, and enemies, including bosses, aren't particularly keen on attacking. I've left the wall jump as last because it ties directly into one of Estival Versus' biggest problems: the camera. The wall jump is a simple maneuver, in fact the most useful of the new additions, as it allows to escape from tight corners, and tight corners are the last place you want to be. Or better, you don't want to be anywhere near any part of the stage that isn't perfectly flat, as the camera is completely unable to follow the action. The camera in Shinobi Versus was pretty bad, but here is even worse, constantly getting stuck behind sceneries or even enemies, failing to give a good overview of the action. This is one aspect of the game that will drive you crazy, especially in the new stages that have more height layers to them. If the lock-on lands on an enemy above or below you, the camera fails to frame both player and enemy. Enemies are still dumb as bricks, with only their looks telling them apart. You'll be faced by waves upon waves of them, each wave bringing more monotony to the game. One particular kind of enemy constantly runs around the player, and if the lock ends on that, it's better to forget the lock-on altogether. The camera can be adjusted by the right analog stick, but to do that you'll have to stop attacking, and sometimes I wished for the camera to be slaved to the left analog stick, because movement is of secondary concern in Estival Versus. Attacks and homing jumps after launchers track whatever opponent you are locked on, and the lock-on transitions to a new enemy when the old one is dead. All you have to do is to mash the standard attack buttons and use the homing jump at the audio cue. The game will think about the rest. This is downright the worst combat system in all Senran Kagura games up to now. The strong attack works as a preemptive launcher or as an interrupt, so the best way to get through opponents is to use the light attack to hit as many enemies as possible during your combo, homing jump when necessary. Compared to Senran Kagura 2, characters lost their secondary mode, and only a few precious characters, like Ikaruga, have any semblance of a technical approach to them. Ikaruga has incredible reach, but shoots her sword with a rather lengthy motion after only a few attacks. The animation breaks the combo and leaves her vulnerable, but can be cancelled with a dash, allowing to continue the combo. As all other characters could rack up impressive combos by just mashing the light attack, she came out as refreshing to play. But could? Well, I think that patch 1.05 made comboing easier by increasing the delay between attacks that get recognized as a single combo, because, we can't have interesting combat in Estival Versus. Bosses follow the same pattern as in Shinobi Versus, starting in casual clothes and changing into their shinobi outfits when their life is around half. This doesn't change the way they attack, so the change is met with tedium, as you will have to go through their entire life bar once again. The best tactic is to whittle them down and unleash a series of special attacks until defeat. Or you can use the jump stomp attack that always works. Considering that bosses like to interrupt your combos with bursts or attacks that apparently come out of nowhere, you'll want these encounters to end as quickly as possible. Things can get ridiculously frustrating when facing 3 characters at once, especially when against ranged characters like Kafuro and Ryobi, that apparently can shoot through walls. In short, the combat in Estival Versus is a boring button mashing with little to no interesting points. It must be noted that bugs allows enemies to end up outside the playable areas, with you only able to perform few hits before the distance is too much. One stage is prone to have the player's character fall through the floor, but thankfully this doesn't translate to a game-breaking bug. About stages, the new ones are rather complex, which in theory should be a good thing, but camera problems aside, they are full of invisible walls that make little sense, blocking just one way to reach a certain portion, with enemies constantly being blocked by those, aimlessly running and jumping around trying to get to you. One new addition is that now stages have dangerous parts that will trigger a special cutscene if you defeat an opponent with a special attack. Some of the old stages have been updated with these features as well, and it's fun to see these scenes at least once. Estival Versus has one rather lengthy campaign, where you switch characters and progress through the story. Each character doesn't get many missions to play, but just like Shinobi Versus, all of them have a set of 5 personal missions outside story mode. These side stories are unlocked by destroying various totems found in certain missions, often in hidden locations. Their destruction also unlocks more items, poses and backgrounds to be used in the outfit room. Having side stories locked behind this requirement allows some characters not to be completely overpowered in story mode, as, again, enemy levels do not scale with the players. It's possible to increase mission difficulty in the selection menu. Fully completing the game will take some time, but unfortunately the game itself isn't that fun or interesting to see this through. The outfit room is still present, of course, with features taken from Shinku, like the ability to pose one or more characters and take a photo. The choice of outfits is once again staggering, with the swimsuit and underwear count being through the roof, though a lot of these are simple recolors and not brand new models. The thing is that essentially everything must be first unlocked and then purchased in the in-game store with currency gained by playing missions. The process favors grinding, something I'm not really fond of. You can also spend credits or DLC tokens in a raffle to unlock more stuff. Senran Kagura Estival Versus is a major letdown. It uses the foundations that Shinobi Versus laid, but fails in improving them, as it ignores its predecessor weak points, often making them worse. The combat is boring, ignoring completing what other games in the series did in an effort to make it more interesting. Estival Versus clearly shows that Marvelous and Tamsoft lost sight of what they want to do with Senran Kagura as a game, being content in just creating new entries with more characters and more racy content. Don't get me wrong, these are welcome, but there must be a fun-to-play game to hold everything together. I hope you have enjoyed this review and you'll stick around for more. Briareo Skerensky, over and out.